Steelers fans, draft season is just getting underway, and here at Steelers Talk, we have you covered with Steelers draft coverage all offseason long. We got Steelers draft rumors pretty much every single day here on the channel. We also go into great detail about prospect analysis and rankings, and then finally, about every 2 weeks, we have a Steelers mock draft on the channel. So if you're looking for one place to get all of your Steelers draft rumors this offseason, go ahead and subscribe to the channel right now. Welcome into Steelers Talk, Yinzers. It is a beautiful Monday. My name is Jack Sperry. Let's just jump right into today's action. Today, we're going to be going over post-combine takeaways, winners, losers, what all the different meetings for the Steelers mean for draft strategy, especially early on in the draft. But first, I want to tell you who the Steelers met with, formally and informally, on the offensive line and at the running back positions, because we didn't cover that in our last video, so I wanted to make sure I covered it today here on a Monday. If you haven't watched that video yet, here is what the thumbnail looks like. The link for that video is in the comments and description of today's video. But without further ado, guys, let's look at who the Steelers met with at the offensive tackle position this weekend in Indianapolis. The only three offensive tackle prospects that they met with formally were the guys that are at the top of the draft. Peter Skoronski from Northwestern, Paris Johnson Jr. from Ohio State, and Broderick Jones from Georgia. All projected first-round picks. Those were the only three formal interviews that the Steelers had, which tells me that they're probably looking offensive tackle there right at the top of the draft. But they also had an informal interview with Anton Harrison, who has been rising up draft boards. Tyler Steen from Alabama, fourth-round pick. And then they also talked with some later-round guys, Ryan Hayes from Michigan, Carter Warren from Pitt, Wanya Morris from Oklahoma, TJ Bass from Oregon, and Dalton Wagner from Arkansas. Now, looking at this position here, I really think that when it comes to tackle, they're probably going to add maybe a piece late in day 3 or get an undrafted guy, and then really, what they're really looking for is getting a guy at offensive tackle in the first round, because plain simply, guys, they think Dan Moore Jr. is a pretty solid player. So if you're not getting a clear upgrade over Dan Moore Jr., they're probably not going to take a tackle early on in this draft class. And then looking at the interior guys now, Joe Tippmann from Wisconsin, projected second-round pick, had a formal interview. Andrew Voorhees had a formal interview as well, but he actually tore his ACL in Indianapolis, so it's going to be interesting to see how far he drops now. Aluwatimi from Michigan, fifth-round pick, projected there. Jake Andrews from Troy, and Nick Broker from Ole Miss. And then they also talked to some other prospects as well. They gave Ricky Stromberg a formal interview, projected seventh-round pick. And then Henry Benivalu from Washington, Brett Liang from Minnesota Duluth, and Jordan McFadden from Clemson. Undrafted prospects, or projected undrafted prospects, also got informal interviews with Pittsburgh as well. So let me know right now, guys. So here's the deal here at Chat Sports. We have a brand new channel here at Chat Sports. It's called NFL Draft by Chat Sports. And if you love the NFL Draft, this is the perfect channel for you. We got daily videos going up every single day regarding and surrounding the NFL Draft. So if you can't get enough NFL Draft content, go ahead, subscribe to that channel. The link to that channel is in the comments and description of today's video. All right, now let's look at the running back position coming up here. Lots of informal meetings. Every single meeting that the Steelers took at the running back position was an informal meeting. Of course, the Steelers already have Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren, so this isn't a huge need, but they did meet with Tank Bigsby, Deuce Vaughn from Kansas State, Kendre Miller from TCU, Chase Brown from Illinois, Roschon Johnson. A lot of people are talking about Bijan Robinson, but Roschon Johnson's pretty darn good as well from Texas. Travis Dye, Cam Peoples from Appalachia State, and then Chris Rodriguez Jr. from Kentucky. All those are informal meetings, so I wouldn't really look into that one too deeply. Maybe they take one on day 3, but I don't think that's really going to be something that the Steelers look too deeply in. So coming up here, I'm going to tell you who are the players that the Steelers are looking at that won the NFL Combine and which guys are going to be falling down draft boards, which ones lost. But before that, let's have a little word from our sponsor at Fanatics. And guys, the luck of the Irish is in the air here. St. Patrick's Day is coming up right around the corner. If you're the type of Steelers fan that wants some Steelers apparel for every single season of the year, we have some great St. Patty's Day apparel on the Fanatics website here. I mean, just look at these. I mean, I'm going to get some of this. I mean, if you want, it's like a lucky charm especially if you want a lucky shirt for the Pittsburgh Steelers, you got to get yourself some green. So go to chatsports.com/Steelers green to get your St. Paddy's Day Steelers apparel today. All right, now let's take a look at some of the guys that won and lost the NFL Combine in Indianapolis this past week. I really think that there's some guys that improved their draft stock, some guys that are going to be really considered as top draft picks for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then some guys that are going to fall down their board a little bit. Number one on my list for winners is Nolan Smith, the edge rusher from Georgia, who absolutely dominated pretty much every single thing that he competed in when it comes to vertical jump, when it comes to 40-yard dash. This guy ran a sub 4.4 40-yard dash as a 240-pound man. I mean, this guy can freaking move, and this guy has the tape to back it up too. When he's healthy, he's dealt with some injuries, obviously played in that great Georgia defense. I think he went from probably a late day one, early day two guy to a solid day one prospect. If the Steelers want to take him, it's probably going to be at number 17 overall. Another guy that had a really great week, Deonte Banks, cornerback from Maryland. This guy is a physical freak. This guy did everything in his power. He ran a great 40 time. He was very explosive. This guy is the type of guy that just plays nasty. He plays press. He doesn't allow, he's very competitive. I think he's going to be a fantastic player in the National Football League. He's dealt with some injuries, so he's kind of been lower on the totem pole to this point, but he really showed out in Indy. I think he's probably going to be a first-round pick now. Number 3 on my list, Broderick Jones, offensive tackle from Georgia. This is the guy that I've been raving about since the beginning of this process, guys. This is the guy that I want the Steelers to draft if he makes it there at number 17 overall, and he showed why in Indianapolis. He's very athletic. He had all the measurements that you look for. He's a former 5-star prospect coming out of high school. He's got all the physical tools that you look for, and then he just showed the athleticism and the nastiness that you look for on the on-field drills. He's going to be a first-round pick. Hopefully, he makes it to the Steelers at 17. Number 4, Jack Campbell. And listen, guys, when I watched Jack Campbell on film, I was like, this guy looks a little bit slow, so he hasn't really been on my radar for the Steelers, but hey, I'll give it to him. The kid did a great job on the on-field workouts. He had a faster 40 time than I thought he was going to get, and honestly, guys, I really think that Jack Campbell's might be the first inside linebacker taken in this year's NFL draft class because he backed up the physical part of it, and then he's got probably the best film out of any linebacker in this class. He's going to be a day one starter in the National Football League, so he's probably going to go round 2. Not sure if I would take an inside linebacker in round 2 if I were the Steelers, but he's definitely a gem that showed out in Indy this past weekend. And then Lucas Van Ness, another Hawkeye here on my list. The Iowa kids definitely showed out. Lucas Van Ness is a freaking machine. I mean, he ran like a 4.6 something, a 40 time. He was freaking fast. He's strong. He's probably got the best bull rush out of anybody in this class. Now, the knock on him is that he didn't play all that much because he's still young. That Iowa defense was one of the best in the country last year, and coming into the NFL, he's still young. He hasn't played a ton. Is he going to be able to make that transition, particularly early on in his career? All I know is the guy had a fantastic workout. Apparently, he was a great interview as well, so I guess we will see. So let me know in the comment section right now, who was the biggest winner of the 2023 NFL Combine? It could be someone on my list. It could be someone that I missed. Let me know who is somebody that showed out in Indianapolis this past weekend. Now let's move on to some of the losers here from Indianapolis. Number 1 on my list was Jordan Addison. Now, Kenny Pickett told us a couple weeks ago that he expects 4 threes, maybe even like 4.29, 4.28 from this guy in the 40-yard dash. We did not see that. He ran a 4.49, which isn't bad, but it's not exactly what we were expecting. He's somebody that's a bit slender. He's a smaller guy, only about 170 pounds. He's not necessarily super tall either. So, he's going to be reliant on getting open and, his legs, but at the end of the day, I think that he's a great route runner. I think on tape, he's extremely fast out of his breaks. My comp for him is Deontay Johnson. Hopefully, because of this performance, he can slide down a little bit. If he makes it to the Steelers at number 32, that would be a godsend for Kenny Pickett and the Steelers offense. All right, another guy that maybe underperformed a little bit was Kelly Ringo. He ran a really fast 40 time. He had certain areas where, he was expected to really show out, and he did, but in the short area quickness and agility drills, he did not have really good hip fluidity. He had some big concerns in some of the drills that he had on the field at Lucas Oil, and it's starting to look like that his stock is going to drop, because when you combine those kind of specific areas that he struggles, namely short area quickness and hit fluidity, plus the tough things that you see on his film, I think he's probably going to fall probably to round 2 or 3 come late April. Then you got Andre Carter, the second from Army, somebody that was talked about as a potential first-round pick just a couple weeks ago. He had the lowest number of reps at the bench press for an edge rusher in this entire edge rusher class, and I just really think that this guy, he's got a ways to go. He's still a bit slender. He needs to get stronger. He's got a great frame, a great building foundation for a team to take on. So if he falls to maybe like round 3, maybe even round 4, and he's still available, the Steelers could grab him and kind of develop him behind TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. Another guy that has been on the Steelers' radar is kind of a late round safety kind of guy, has been Trey Dean III. I've seen in a lot of your mock drafts have Trey Dean in there, like in the 6th or 7th round. He did not really have a good week at Indy, guys. He did not run a fast 40. He was just not impressive whatsoever in the athletic department. Now, his film is a little bit better than the athletic profile, in my opinion. I do like him as a player, but his performance in Indianapolis definitely did not help his draft stock. And then finally, Max Duggan. The Steelers did talk with a couple of potential backup QB options late round 3, or late day 3, I should say, like Max Duggan, Clayton Tune. They talked with them. The problem is the on-field workouts were just awful for Max Duggan. He could not, his accuracy was just all over the place, overthrowing players, you know, the gauntlet. I mean, in the gauntlet drills, there was some video of him throwing the passes in the gauntlet drills, and like the receiver's like not even 5 yards away, and he can barely even put it in the vicinity of the receiver. I just don't think he's going to be the type of guy that has the accuracy to be an NFL quarterback. But let me know in the comments section right now. You gave me a winner, now give me a loser. Who was the biggest loser at the NFL Combine this season? I want to hear who you think in the comments section. Like I said before, it doesn't have to be on my list, can be somebody else. But finally here, I want to talk about some of the takeaways that I had when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers and their draft strategy. I thought the guys that they ended up talking to in their formal and informal meetings told me a lot about what their draft strategy is going to be come late April. Number 1, let's start with round 1, which is I think that they're probably going after an offensive tackle. Now, you know, you look at the guys, the round 1 projected players that they had formal meetings with. Right, 3 of them were offensive tackles: Skoronski, Johnson, Jones. They also talked with a couple receivers, so it looks like if offensive tackle isn't there, they could go receiver. But I think what they really want is to find an upgrade to Dan Moore Jr. at left tackle. If they can't get it, they're fine with going with Dan Moore Jr. They'll take a receiver or maybe even Joey Porter Jr., but it really does look like they want offensive tackle right at the top of the draft this year. And then, you know, the guys that they talked to at the edge, defensive line, defensive tackle, and cornerback positions here really were the guys that are going to be there on day 2, guys that aren't really the top of the line prospects, right? They didn't talk with Christian Gonzalez or Devin Witherspoon, right? They didn't talk with the really high-end guys. They talked with the guys that are good players but could fall to day 2. So I'd expect edge and cornerback to be picks on day 2 because, I mean, plain and simply, edge and cornerback, they're loaded classes this year. You can find a good player on day 2 in those classes. And then finally, I came into this process thinking the Steelers probably wouldn't look for an interior offensive lineman in the draft. I think that interior actually was pretty good last year. Mason Cole had his best year as a pro. Kevin Dotson, I know a lot of Steelers fans don't like the way he played last year. He actually graded pretty well. And then James Daniels was a good player for the Steelers last year. But they did talk with plenty of interior offensive linemen at the Combine, lots of centers, so it looks like they might be looking to add a center to replace Mason Cole potentially. I think it's going to be really, really interesting, guys, moving forward. So like I said, offensive tackle round 1, edge cornerback on day 2, and then maybe take an interior offensive lineman there on day 3. And here's your reminder to go ahead and subscribe to the new Chat Sports channel here surrounding the draft, NFL Draft by Chat Sports. The link is in the comments and description of today's video if you want to go check that channel out. Some really great stuff, lots of great interviews from the Combine on that channel. So go ahead and check that out for me right now. That'll be it for me today, Yinzers. I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.